Welcome to No Nonsense Guy SA.
Hey guys, bootfighters and massacres and binnets and whatever you identify with, how's it? It's your no-nonsense guy, SA Warren Herald. I had a small procedure yesterday and I had an implant today in the tooth, so I can't even whistle. I just thought I'd check in with you guys because there's so many stories. So what we'll do is we call this today's corruption comforts, right? But first, a disclaimer, okay? These are my own personal views, the ones that I'm still legally allowed to have under whatever's left of free speech in our wonderfully written constitution, actually, that isn't really followed properly. So let's start off with the return of the crying man, none other than Brian Molefe. Brian Molefe, the man who once cried on live TV to explain why he definitely wasn't guilty of anything, okay, is now being told to pay back 4.3 million, it's just short, back to insurance company AIG from his own pocket, okay? No pension fund magic, no Gupta deposits, just Brian by himself, his bank account, and the awkward sound of debit orders bouncing. So basically this, just a quick précis of what happened was that when he went through the whole Eskom scandal and everything, he had a policy in place that would cover him if he ever had any legal costs, okay? In which he had to defend himself. So AIG forwarded the 4.3 million, but there was a little codicil, and that's if you're found not guilty, they pay it. Okay. If you are found guilty, or that, I don't know what the correct wording is. Basically, if you're found guilty, okay, what happens is you pay the money back. So he basically says, no, well, I didn't have this contract with you. It wasn't with me or anything. In which case they said, well, give us the 4.3 million back anyway. Think about it logically. If you had the contract, then pay back the 4.3 because you were guilty. If you didn't have the contract, give us the 4.3 back because you didn't have a contract. When you've made a career out of bleeding Eskom dry, okay, being told to pay anything back must feel like a human rights violation, okay, which, in ANC speak, is just Monday. So, in further news, the NHI gag attempt, okay, so South Africa, okay, the powers that be are now trying to block court challenges to the NHI bill. Because clearly the only thing worse than bad policy is someone pointing out it's bad policy. This is what happens when socialism is run by amateurs. Fewer jobs, longer hospital queues, and fewer people left to foot the bill. Morons. Okay, this one's a quick one as well. That's why I have to go through them so quickly, because I just can't believe the stupidity. So, the SANDF Chief General Rudzani Mapwanya has been caught taking an unsanctioned diplomatic trip to Iran. No clearance, no protocol. Just hopped on a plane like it was a weekend getaway. So now my question is this, and he's come back and there's a hoo-ha in the press and all that kind of stuff. If this interests you, then just Google stories. Sorry, I stopped smoking and so I've got the stuff. But it feels a lot like the Andrew Whitfield, What Circus act, but with more military hardware in the background, We've actually reached a point where top officials treat South Africa like their own personal Uber account. International diplomacy now runs on, I'll just do it and hope no one notices. Spoiler alert. We noticed, you clown. Then, of course, also is that the US has called out South Africa on human rights. Gosh, horror. I don't know how people can actually refute this. Minority groups in this country, I believe, okay, and I include minority groups in the taxpayers, okay? You know what I'm saying? The 1 in 10 people that actually pay tax, that's a minority group, if I ever saw one, okay? They've called out South Africa on human rights concerns, including racial discrimination in policy and weaponizing law enforcement, okay? So now, look, America, it does have its own scandals, okay? But when they say, that's too much, you know you've made it into the World Corruption League. Of course, our government will respond with the usual, we reject in the strongest terms. And then absolutely nothing changes. Right. So businesses in South Africa, I think it was July, given the brief that they have to, more than 50 people in the business. Now what you have to do is you have to get your BEE compliance in order or face huge fines. It can be 2.7 million or 10% of your turnover. I don't know if it's the higher of or whatever, okay? But this is now, in September, that the companies have to get their ducks in a row. What's the translation, okay, from the ANC government? We don't care that you employ people. We care that you employ the right people, but more than that, at the right racial quota. It's no longer about empowering people. It's about finding another stick to beat businesses with until they either close, leave, or join the feeding trough with the rest of the peaks. The peaks. Then there's something that I picked on up today called the liquidation cartel. Okay, so there was a case a little while ago where MTI and its shareholders were granted by the liquidation and the court and all that, I think something like 1.3 billion, and all of a sudden there was only less than a billion left. Okay. They say up to 450 million had just vanished. Okay. So that's why it's this new coin word, liquidation cartel. So why am I telling you that? It's because now Bangso's liquidation, again, I don't want to go too much into the story. In fact, comment if you do want me to go more into the story, but I'm trying to keep them short, these reports. But Bangso is starting to look very eerily familiar. It's the same script, just different actors. The only thing faster, basically, than your money leaving these schemes is the founders, okay, on a one-way flight to Dubai. And no, the hawks won't get them. Well, unfortunately, unless they're offering a bribe. Then let's talk about none other than former PRASA CEO Lucky Montana. Okay, he's in a 46 million ranta tax fight with SARS. Now, this is the same man who oversaw trains that didn't fit our railways, remember? He owes SARS 46 million. It's basically in unpaid taxes. Again, do a little bit of homework. You'll get the full story. You can dig deeper into it. But what a chop. What an absolute chop. You'd think someone who can't measure train heights, wouldn't struggle to measure a tax bill or employ an accountant that can measure. But I suppose it's hard to count when you're really too busy counting the loot. And that's your daily dose of corruption, incompetence, and state-sanctioned hypocrisy. These aren't just bad apples. This is an orchard, people, that's been rotting for decades. And yes, These are my personal views, the ones I'm still legally allowed to say, until free speech is finally redefined as you can say whatever we like. This has been your no-nonsense guy SA, happily coming to you again and stating the facts without any bullshit. Okay, yes, Christians can say bullshit. Let's get rid of the fluff. Let's say things as they are. It's about time. Remember, go forth, be righteous, and use this wonderful piece of grey matter that the good Lord has given you. God bless. Chat to you soon.